All right, Mr. T vibes today. What do you think? All right, I got a new microphone. Hopefully we've got everything sorted out. Man, I hope it's not the cable. I hope it was the microphone, because I definitely replaced the microphone and I did replace the cable, but I didn't like the way it sounded, so I plugged in the old cable. I think it was the other microphone. Anyway, hi guys, welcome back in today's episode of Crue Trime. Crue Trime. Crue Trime. This is the story of Ariel Castro. If you are new here, hi, welcome. My name is Sarah, and today I'm going to put on my makeup and tell a terrible story. The makeup isn't the star of today's show, but if you are interested in any of the stuff that I'm using, everything's gonna be listed down in the description box. So today's story is one that, I mean, it's terrible. Saying I'm excited to do this story is like maybe not the right word choice, but it's a good one. This is a doozy, and it has a good ending, happy ending. Okay, let's get started. Ariel Castro was born on July 10th, 1960 in Puerto Rico to Pedro Castro and Lillian Rodriguez. His father, Pedro, was the biggest landowner in the village, and 2 years after Ariel was born, his mom found out that Ariel's dad had a whole second family. He was straight up married to another woman and had 4 other children. So, great start, okay? Pedro eventually, I guess, chose family number 1, the other family, and left Lillian to go be with them. And soon after, Lillian packed up and moved herself to Pennsylvania, left the kids behind with her mother. So Ariel and his 2 siblings lived with his mother's mother, so his grandmother, and her name was Ercilia. Not a great start already, but it gets worse. So during the time that he lived with his grandmother, 5-year-old Ariel was repeatedly molested by another boy. He never reported the abuse, probably because he didn't understand what was happening to him, but that trauma led to some early onset, like, sexual compulsions and obsessions. Persisted for the rest of his life. Ariel's mother, Lillian, eventually returned to Puerto Rico when he was about 6 years old. She was not a nice lady. She was very physically abusive to Ariel and his siblings. In 1970, so around the time that Ariel was about 10 years old, they moved to, mainland USA. They settled in Cleveland on the west side to live near their extended family from both his mother and his father's sides. Ariel's uncle owned a local record shop and really encouraged studying music and the love of music and all of that stuff, and even gave him a guitar. He enjoyed music, he was really talented, and he ended up playing bass guitar in several local bands. In 1980, 20-year-old Ariel began dating his 17-year-old neighbor, Grimilda Figueroa. Her family had moved into the house across the street. Their relationship was very much like a marriage in every way, except for actually getting married. They never actually got married. Grimilda and Ariel had 3 daughters and a son between 1981 and 1990. And after the first child arrived, Ariel's behavior started really changing drastically. He became abusive and very controlling. So controlling, in fact, that he made all of the decisions, like where they were allowed to shop, what they were allowed to purchase, what TV shows they were allowed to watch, what clothes she was allowed to wear. And if Grimilda ever did anything without Ariel's permission, he would beat the shit out of her. And that violence only escalated over the years. In 1989, Ariel had physically assaulted, beat up Grimilda in the presence of his brother, and he was arrested by police, but he was released after she refused to press charges. In 1992, Ariel purchased a home from his uncle located at 2207 Seymour Avenue in Cleveland, where he and Grimilda together, lived and were raising their children. The neighborhood where they lived was made up mostly of immigrants and first-generation Americans, families, working class, minding their own business, just making it. They all knew that Ariel was a wife beater. They saw Grimilda running out of the house screaming. Even she would run to their houses to use their phones to call for help. Family business is family business. It's private. They didn't want to involve themselves in that sort of thing. So this cycle of abuse continued to escalate, actually, to the point of broken bones and an incident where Grimilda was thrown down a flight of stairs and it cracked her skull. It was bad. How many times do the police have to be called before something is going to be done to help the situation. Now, listen, I'm not saying that the neighbors were wrong, but also it's not that simple. In those kinds of situations, especially where one spouse is financially dependent on the other and there's kids involved and, you know, one of them is a psychopath. I mean, it's a little difficult to kind of put yourself in somebody's shoes like that, but what I'm saying is just because the neighbors didn't intervene actively and Grimelda stayed in that situation, it doesn't make anybody deserving of it to continue. It's totally wrong. Anyways, eventually she was able to leave Ariel in 1996 and she got custody of all of their children. So after Grimelda left, Ariel was living that bachelor life, you know, alone in that house. He continued his job driving a school bus and he played bass guitar in a salsa band at night. He kept his private life very private. Now cut to May 3rd, 2013. Neighbors of Ariel Castro, Aurora Marti, and Charles Ramsey. Now, you guys have seen this interview with Charles Ramsey. It's the best. It's the best interview ever. They heard some shouting coming from Ariel's house. When Charles Ramsey went outside to look, he saw a woman like waving her arm frantically outside of the front door, which already was odd because Ariel never used the front door. He only ever used the back door to come in and out of his house anyways. So he went over to like find out what was going on because this woman was like screaming bloody murder. Like it was bad. So he went over to help.
I go on the porch and she says, help me get out. I've been in here a long time. So, you know, I figured it's a domestic violence dispute. So I opened the door.
But the door was locked. You know, she said she can't get out. She's trying to get out. So Charles and the neighbor helped to kick down the door to help get this woman out. There was chains on the door and all this, right? So then the woman had a small child. The woman was Amanda Berry.
Now, did you know who that was when she said that?
When she told me, it didn't register.
Amanda Berry was a Cleveland teen who had disappeared 10 years before this. And her name and face was everywhere in the town. So like this was unbelievable. Okay, and the neighbors grabbed Amanda and brought her into their home. They called police. Amanda told the 911 operator who she was and that she had been kidnapped by Ariel Castro and had been held captive in his home for 10 years. Now when police arrived, Amanda told them about the others. She said, I ain't just the only one. It's some more girls up in that house.
So they went up there, you know, 30, 40 deep, and when they came out was just astonishing because I thought they were going to come up with nothing.
I love this interview with him so much. He's the best. He reminds me of my Uncle Pat a little bit, I have to say. So inside the house, police found 2 other women. Gina DeJesus, another famously missing Cleveland teen that had disappeared 9 years before, and Michelle Knight. Now, police had gone into the house expecting to like find bodies, but what they found was probably worse. The house was so dark inside, filthy. The windows had been boarded up from the inside with the doors from like closets and such. Anyways, so this house had 3 floors, right? The main floor, and upstairs, and a basement. Anyways, the other 2 girls were found chained up in the house. And the police freed them, they wrapped them in blankets, took them to the hospital for treatment, you know. Now also inside this dirty, stinky, filthy house, like all the doors were locked, like padlocked. Now it didn't take police long to track down the owner of the house, Ariel Castro. By about 6 p.m., he was arrested at a nearby McDonald's. And while all of this was happening, news crews and a crowd of neighbors had gathered on the block, and they all described Ariel as a friendly guy, like a normal neighbor. He was kind of particular about who he would let into his house, like mostly interacting with people from only the porch. And he only ever went in and out of his house through the back door, you know, in the backyard. But, you know, maybe he was just a private guy.
You see what I'm saying? There's nothing exciting about him. Well, until the day.
He was musically talented, he was into cars, he played softball, they ate ribs with this dude. They never saw any of the girls. They never suspected that Ariel could be doing such a thing steps from their houses. Right under their noses.
And you had no indication that there was anything going on?
Bro, not a clue that girl was in that house or anybody else was in there against their will.
So each of the women that Ariel Castro had in his house, he would kidnap them, right? He would first bring them to his dark, damp basement, and they were chained to the ceiling and wall and tortured. So when they would try to resist at all, he would just beat the shit out of them. He had total control over these girls, and he had the whole house booby-trapped with peepholes, alarms, chains, mirrors so he could see, you know? He would keep an eye on everything going on, and he would play little mind games, like making it seem like maybe he forgot to lock a door or something, and then the girls would think it was their chance to escape, and he would wait for them and then fucking fuck him up. Anyways, whenever Ariel would plan to be away from the home for long periods of time, he would cover their mouths with duct tape. Each of the girls were kept in separate rooms with slits cut in the doors to like pass food through. And Gina and Michelle eventually were kept together in what was really a closet. It was big enough really just for the mattress to fit inside. At one point, before they were moved into the same room, the one room was kind of the closet off of the other room. There was a hole cut through the wall where the chain went through, and one girl was chained through the wall to the other girl. Ugh. But of the three girls, Michelle Knight was treated the worst. She was often beaten to unconsciousness. In the interviews that I saw, in the things that I read about her, she said she knows the reason that she was treated the worst is because she was the most defiant. He could not break her. So, like I said, the girls were kept separately for most of the time, and Ariel mentally manipulated the girls to not trust each other. He would physically punish them if he caught them talking to each other, but they did learn to support and help each other as time went on. You know, you have to. Within 2 days of the discovery, Ariel Castro was charged with 4 counts of kidnapping and 3 counts of rape. So the 3 women, but remember there was a young girl found. His bail was set at $8 million. Whoa, what the hell happened? Like how? Hang on, let me finish this eyebrow. It's so hard to talk and do my eyebrows at the same time. Dead giveaway. My neighbor got big testicles cause we see this dude every day. We eat ribs with this dude, but we didn't have a clue. The girls was in that house. She said, please help me get out. Dead giveaway, dead giveaway, dead giveaway, dead giveaway, dead giveaway, dead giveaway, dead giveaway. Dead giveaway, dead giveaway. My neighbor got big testicles cause we see this dude every day. How did these girls get in this house? Glad you asked. On August 22nd, 2002, 21-year-old Michelle Knight went missing. She had been last seen on, near the corner of Lorraine Avenue and 106th Street in Cleveland, Ohio. So Michelle Knight had a tough life already. She grew up in an abusive, poverty-stricken home. She endured sexual abuse at the hands of a male family member, and at one point, she decided it would be safer if she just lived on the streets. So she left. She made her way, surviving, doing what she had to do. And by age 18, Michelle had found herself pregnant and gave birth to a baby boy that she named Joey. By this time, she wasn't on the streets anymore. She had a man and some friends that were helping her out a little bit. So one evening, Michelle left little Joey in the care of her mother. I think she was at work or something. Michelle's drunken boyfriend had, I guess, gotten frustrated or whatever with Joey crying, being a baby, grabbed him in such a way that it twisted his leg, broke his leg. So Michelle took him to the hospital. I think she kind of fed them a line, like he fell down some stairs or something, because she didn't want to lose him. The hospital staff, they kind of know what they're looking at, so they called Child Protective Services or Social Services or whoever it was that they called, and they removed Joey from Michelle's custody. So Michelle was working towards regaining custody, and she was actually headed to an appointment with the caseworker on the afternoon of August 22nd, 2002. So Michelle wasn't really familiar with that side of town and was having a hard time finding the address of the meeting. She had gotten herself turned around, was lost, and she went into a Family Dollar store to ask for directions. A man in the store overheard her, because the clerk couldn't help her out, and he approached and offered to give her a ride. He said, I know where that is. It's like 10 minutes from here. I can take you. That man was Ariel Castro, and she recognized him because she was very close friends with his daughter. So she accepted the ride, no fear. Why would she have any fear? This is her friend's dad. So once they get in the car, they're making small talk. She's explaining where she needs to go and why, and she's a mom and trying to get her son back and yada yada. And he said, oh, does your son like puppies? She's like, yeah, he's a fucking child. Who doesn't like puppies? She didn't say that. I have some puppies. I can give one to you to take home to your son. Do you want to go see him? And she's like, I I really have to get to this appointment. She didn't want to be rude. She needed the ride, okay? So she's like, okay. They go to his house. He takes her inside through the back door because she saw the dog in the backyard when they get there. He's like, no, the other one is the one with the puppies. That one's upstairs in a bedroom. She's like, okay. She followed him upstairs to the bedroom, but when they got up there, there's no puppies. Ariel overpowered her and he hit her and he started tying her up with an orange extension cord. He assaulted her, gagged her with a dirty sock in the mouth, and then covered it with duct tape. Gross. And he didn't just tie her up with this extension cord, like he hog-tied her like he was gonna roast her over a spit, okay? Ankles, wrist, neck, and like hung her up. Crazy. Anyways, so he assaulted her a bunch of times, and then at a certain point, he left her there for a couple days. Left her there like that. He eventually moved her down to the basement. Once in the basement, he chained her up around her neck and waist to a pole in the center of the basement. She only had on like her underwear in the dark, total darkness, for months. He would torture her, feeding her only once a day, if at all. He would rape her multiple times a day. And to keep her from screaming so that somebody would maybe find her, he put like a motorcycle helmet over her head. So eventually, he moved her up into a bedroom and kept her in a closet, but she was chained up there as well, basically naked, filthy, starving. He didn't let her shower. He was also like mentally berating her, you know, saying, nobody's looking for you. There's no signs. You're not on the news. There's no flyers. There's no vigils. Nothing. No one cares about you. Now, Michelle was 21 years old when she disappeared. Because of her history of running away, and also because she was an adult, law enforcement didn't really prioritize her recovery, and her family was so shitty, they just couldn't be bothered either. Also, Michelle is like tiny. She's like a pocket person. 4'7" or something like that, like not even 5 feet tall. So Ariel obviously thought that she was a young girl. When he found out how old she really was, that really angered him. He really treated her like shit. I think he was like pissed off. I don't know what he thought. So less than a year after Michelle Knight was captured by Ariel Castro, on April 21st, 2003, Amanda Berry left her shift at Burger King. It was the day before her 17th birthday. Amanda was walking along Lorraine Avenue when the father of her coworker, Anthony Castro, he approached and offered her a ride. This was Ariel Castro. Again, didn't have any reason to not accept the ride, so she got in his car. Same thing happened to Michelle, right? He took her to the basement, tied her up, assaulted her repeatedly, while Michelle's upstairs now, hearing it all. So Amanda was only 17, right? And her family missed her immediately. You know, she didn't come home from work that day, and her birthday was the next day. Her family was very vocal and engaged with the media in searching for Amanda. Her mother even went on the Montel Williams show a year later to meet with psychic Sylvia Brown. You guys already know how I feel about Miss Sylvia Brown. Sylvia told Amanda's mother that she'd see her again in heaven. Amanda's mother died from heart failure about 2 years after that. A year later, on April 2nd, 2004, 14-year-old Gina DeJesus was walking home from school near Lorraine Avenue with her friend Ariel Castro, another one of Ariel's children. So the girls ended up parting ways, walking their own separate ways, and Ariel popped up asking Gina if she had seen Ariel and could she just, you know, get in the car and help him find her. So she did. This monster used his own children as bait. Disgusting.
Disgusting. Disgusting.
So, like I said, Gina got in the car to find Ariel, and you know the rest, okay? Basement, rape, torture, rinse, repeat. Now, since Gina vanished within sight of where Amanda was kidnapped, and within a year, the two families connected the case immediately, and they were even featured on America's Most Wanted. Gina's family papered the neighborhood with flyers and held countless searches and vigils, and they stayed very engaged with the media to keep Gina's name in the public space. So at this point, Cleveland was terrified and enraged. How could this happen? And who would be next? Get this. Ariel knew Gina's parents. He grew up with Gina's mother, Nancy, and Ariel made donations, assisted in searches, attended the vigils, he handed out flyers. When his ass had Gina tied up, chained up in his house like 3 miles away. After one of the vigils, Ariel even brought home one of those flyers and gave it to Gina. I cannot. It's too much. So over the years that the 3 girls were held captive, they all suffered varying degrees of abuse, mental, physical, sexual abuse by Ariel Castro. Michelle became pregnant by Ariel 5 times, and each time he would beat, poison, or starve it out of her. She miscarried each of those 5 pregnancies. My makeup looks crazy right now. It will come together. Or it won't. I don't know. So remember I said that Amanda's mother went on the Montel Williams show? Yes, the girls were held captive and they were tied up, chained, beaten, all those things. But it's not like they didn't have any idea what was going on in the outside, because when each girl was brought in, the other girls already knew who it was, you know, because they would be held down in the basement at first, and the girls were watching TV and listening to the radio, so they would hear about the missing girls. So when Amanda showed up, Michelle already knew who she was, and the same for Gina. And they also saw their families on the news holding vigils and searches and stuff like that, and Amanda saw her mom's appearance on the Montel Williams show. Can you imagine? No, I can't. Amanda did learn that her mother passed away about 2 years after that appearance on the Montel Williams show, and about a month later, Amanda realized she was pregnant. Now, Ariel had never allowed a pregnancy to continue in that house, so they weren't really sure what was gonna happen. I guess this one was different. Why? Who fucking knows with this guy? Cut to Christmas Day, 2006. A now 20-year-old Amanda went into labor. Ariel brought in Michelle to help Amanda with the labor and brought up a baby pool from the basement for Amanda to sit in because he didn't want her to ruin the bed or the floor. Oh, I'm sure it's the childbirth goo that's gonna ruin the bare, nasty mattress. Ariel, nasty. So anyway, Michelle helped Amanda give birth to a baby girl that she named Jocelyn. As Jocelyn grew into a toddler, Ariel continued the abuse of the women, and when she was about 4 years old, Ariel started taking her outside. He would introduce her to his friends as his girlfriend's daughter. He would never say that it was his daughter. And growing up in that dirty, dark house with locks on everything, Jocelyn started asking questions as she got a little older. Ariel started unlocking some more of the doors, and Amanda didn't have to wear her bracelets anymore. That's what he called them. Now, Michelle and Gina were still chained up. Hang on a second, let me put lashes on, I'll be right back. Okay, now, on May 6th, 2013, Ariel left the house, and he forgot to lock the front door. Now, little Jocelyn had, you know, pretty much free reign to run all over the house as she pleased, and being raised in a weirdly locked up house, she noticed the front door's open. Well, she ran up and told her mom, Amanda, and Amanda's like, well, he's probably outside. She's like, no, his blue car's gone. I saw him, he left. He's not here. Went down to the door, and sure enough, it had been left unlocked. So Amanda got her arm out of the door and was like waving it around like crazy, screaming, yelling, trying to get anybody's attention that she could. The neighbors heard the ruckus, and although, you know, the neighbors in this neighborhood kind of mind their business, with the screaming and stuff, it sounded like somebody was really in trouble, so they came running. And now we're caught back up to the day of the rescue. So Amanda and Jocelyn got out and they called the police, and then they also told them about Michelle and Gina. Now, even though Michelle and Gina, they heard the ruckus that was happening downstairs when Amanda was trying to get out, but they, remember, are so like mind-fucked, they thought it was a trick. Or they thought that he had come home and found her and was like beating her up, right? By now, the police are there, and the police are announcing themselves, police, we're here to help. You know, they're inside the house looking for the girls who are upstairs chained up, but they were like hiding because it could have been anybody saying, hey, it's the police. You know, they just thought it was one of Ariel's tricks. Once the police got into the room and showed their badges, it was real. And they were rescued. Amanda and Gina's families were overjoyed. But sadly, this is so sad, nobody from Michelle's family came for her. It wasn't really until the story was really hot in the news that some of her family members started to pop up doing interviews and such. So Michelle Knight was in terrible physical condition when she was rescued. The years of being kept in the dark had severely deteriorated her vision, and the years of physical abuse left her with nerve damage, facial damage, and deafness in one ear. She had a severe stomach infection because Ariel wouldn't let her eat or would make her eat like spoiled and rotten food. That infection was so bad that she almost didn't survive. They had put her on antibiotics to treat the infection and it like wasn't working. People from Michelle's family eventually did come forward, but she wouldn't see them in the hospital, and when she was ready to be released, she actually went and stayed with Gina's family. When Ariel Castro was charged with the crimes, remember it started out as like 4 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of rape, but those charges ballooned to like 937 criminal counts. Rape, kidnapping, aggravated murder. Based on personhood laws in Ohio, each of those miscarriages was counted as an aggravated murder. Amanda Berry kept a journal over the years. There was a detailed record of every time that she moved inside the house, every time that he raped her. She had an account of everything. So they used that journal to build that case because it was evidence. Also, when Ariel had abducted Gina, he was nervous that he had been caught on a surveillance camera. Shortly after, he wrote a full confession. So this was like 9 years before he wrote a full confession, and when police searched the house, they found it. So Ariel Castro initially pled not guilty, but he later agreed to a plea deal to spare him the death penalty, and instead he was given life without parole, plus 1,000 years. In the sentencing hearing, Ariel Castro was allowed to speak to the judge, and he said a bunch of bullshit about his sex addiction and other wild claims like how the abortions were mutually decided.
I feel that the FBI let these girls down when they questioned, if they would have questioned me in 02 or whenever it happened that Gina was missing, it's possible that it would have ended right there.
Fuck off. The incredibly brave Michelle Knight actually attended Ariel Castro's sentencing hearing and made a victim impact statement in the court. She stood up and said,
I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning. I will overcome all this that happened, but you will face hell for eternity. From this moment on, I will not let you define me or affect who I am. I will live on. You will die a little every day.
Slow clap for Michelle Knight. Well, after that, Mr. Ariel Castro lasted about a month and 1 day at the Ohio Correctional Reception Center in Orient, Ohio, before he was found dead in his cell at age 53, having hanged himself with his own bedsheet. The House of Terrors on Seymour Street was demolished in August of 2013. 2 years after the rescue of all of the ladies, Amanda and Gina graduated from high school, and Gina also was able to have the quinceañera that she missed out on, complete with a dazzling white gown. Michelle Knight is now known as Lily Rose Lee. She changed her name. While she was being held prisoner, her son Joey was adopted by a loving family, and although Lily Rose credits the love of her son and for her son Joey that helped get her through this ordeal, she has decided to not try to engage with him because she doesn't want to interrupt his life. Instead, the family shares photos and updates with her, and she has also since married and is studying culinary arts and learning to play the piano. Amanda Berry now works with the Fox News station in Cleveland. She does a segment that covers missing children and adults in the area. Her daughter Jocelyn will turn 15 years old this year. Amanda also makes regular motivational, inspirational appearances at banquets and charities and things like that. In 2018, Gina DeJesus launched Cleveland Missing, the Cleveland Family Center for Missing Children and Adults. It's a long title. The center is aimed to help connect families with resources to help assist them in bringing their loved ones home. The brick and mortar building is on the same street where the house that she and the other ladies were held captive. If you're interested to learn more or to make a donation to this organization, please visit clevelandmissing.org, and I will link it down in the description box. So that's it. That is the story of the insane, depraved monster, Ariel Castro. This story really proves that it's not naive to never give up. You know, some people do come home. These 3 incredible, brave women survived and are surviving, and he's dead. Good riddance. Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then consider subscribing to this channel before you leave today. I upload new videos here on YouTube every week, and you can follow me on most of the other socials as well. If you'd like to recommend a Crue Trime story for me to cover, then just leave that down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. That is that on that. I will catch you next time in the next video. Bye!
Either she homeless or she got problems. That's the only reason why she run to a black man.
Is she gonna say Crue Trime every time? Yeah. Hang on. Shit. Has there been something in my teeth this whole time?
Every day. I mean, every day.
Gina DeJesus. Gina DeJesus. Oh my god. This is the... Is that even? No, not even a little bit. It's the story of... There was stuff in my teeth the whole time. Hope you enjoyed that. Oh, I don't have my script. Shit. I just pulled off my lashes. I don't know who I am today or what is happening with my face, but this is what we're doing.
Dead giveaway.
Charles, thank you very much.
Dead giveaway.